Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to Consciously here. I have a list of questions. I've picked a couple off that I'll get to. So this is going to be a short potty. I'll keep them short for now. I'm just going to answer them. I feel like there's a bit of a flow here, so I'm just going to let whatever come out as I go through them. So, what do you do when you fall back into the person you used to be? What do you do when you fall back into the person you used to be? A reason why I like that one is because it is reflecting the familiar self analogy. And what I do, it's sometimes when I'm in that familiar self, it's really hard to tell that I'm away from that new identity or in my truth, because that familiar self has been repeated nonstop for some time. It has its difficulties of leaving that in the memory bank and running with the new identity that you want to. So when I'm in it, I'm really in it, and I am the wave. I'm the particle in the wave. And then it just takes a bit of that observation. Maybe it's through a meditation practice, and I've reached that little bit more love for myself, and now I observe where I was operating from when I fell back into the familiar self, and I will then reflect on what it was I was doing that brought me back into the familiar self. What habits, how was I speaking to myself, whatever. Something I was doing was linking those neural pathways back together and finding its way back. So, and what I mean by that, every time like an event happens, it creates a memory and it fires up our neural pathways and creates synaptic connections. And anytime that you may experience something similar, it may fire that one, and you'll check to see if you want to connect into that one that's fired with that one and wired. And if you feel that emotion just enough, you connect back into it. So, yeah, I would say my meditations, keep meditating. That will help you create a new body of chemistry. So, the more we do that, the more we become a new person. We're upregulating proteins that are for a healthy, optimal state of being, versus when we're stressing and we're in that familiar stuff that we don't like being. We are down-regulating our immunity by upregulating proteins that create disease through those stress hormones. So, yeah, I'm going to keep... I do fall from grace. I'm going to say that. That's kind of the way I view it, jumping back into the familiar self. But I feel like I did fall from grace a little bit, and I may sit if sometimes I have a massive drop, and in that massive drop it would have reflected me doing really negative things, or maybe even the way that I'm speaking to myself needs to change. Went back into the I can, or I'm worthy, etc. So, yeah, hopefully that one answers that and gives you some insight. What's your faith, or what do you believe in? I believe in a lot of things. I definitely believe in a lot of things. I believe that we have this vibrational universe, that there is an ultimate consciousness, the God consciousness, Christ consciousness, that is creating the whole thing, and that I'm an aspect of that. And in that image, and in that image of God, like I am my purest. So I believe that. And this kind of goes in with the familiar stuff too. Like when I fall from grace, I'm outside of love. What my worst self is lack of love. My abandoned self is lack of love. Unworthy self is lack of love. It's the removal of love from my life. So when I'm in love, or when I'm in that power of enlightenment, my life does look a lot different. It feels different. Vibrationally, it's different. I am being taken care of, and I am loved unconditionally, and I'm not worried. And I'm not fearing anything. It's when, I fall from grace into those states. And it may be from a trigger, a wound that I haven't healed yet. It may be because those neural pathways are still firing that it had been fired for 20 odd years. These are all things that we go through as a human when we're rewiring our bodies and healing through re-hijacking our own amygdalas. I'm going to say that there. I'll go into a little bit more of the amygdala stuff in another episode. So my faith is in God. It's not would be, it is in God. I feel very connected, and had since a long time ago, before this life. I felt really connected as a child, and didn't grow up in a religious household, never was taught how to pray, but I was always in little prayers. I was always hoping that the neighbours would be fine, that my animals would be fine, and that I'd get healthy because I was a sick kid. So I did spend a lot of time alone, and in that time alone, I had to feel. When you have a lot of time to feel, and you have a lot of time to really be with the presence. And this kind of went back to the familiar self. I'm not present when I'm in as my familiar self, because that familiar self is a descended version of me. It's not my truth. And when I'm not in my truth, or we're in my faith, remember, it's the removal of love. And once I'm back in the presence of myself, and my true presence is love. My true presence is healing to others. My true presence draws people and my desires towards me. It doesn't repel them. And the reason why we repel the things that we want so much is because we're not in complete faith that we are worthy of these things. We're making this judgment subconsciously or unconsciously, maybe from your upbringing, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's just those neural pathways still wiring in that program, and you're just in that loop, playing in the back. I feel that when I fall from grace, I return back to a familiar self. And the more that I was doing that, going in and out of the familiar self, it was just not resonating with me anymore. Because the more present I was becoming, the more love I was having for myself. It didn't include me in the corporate world, or at least in that industry or that job title that I had, and the community people around me. Same with relationships. I've been in toxic relationships where I was not loving myself, and that's the reason why these people treat us like that. And then we have to remove ourselves out of these situations or out of these environments in order to heal. And then when we're alone for a long time and we feel into those emotions, it can really warp your reality. A big thing about faith for me that's been a challenge is if it was real, because I've had some really prophetic, I can't even explain it from there. There are no words here that can explain some of these experiences that I've felt, because it's beyond this world. And I know that it's not here because we would experience that more, but it's beyond this. I can't even describe it. But every time I fall from grace and my faith is renewed, is because I fell and I surrender again. And in that surrender, it's like, I actually can't do this alone, and I don't want to do this alone anymore. and that love is renewed, and those things that I needed sorting out, everything starts to come in gracefully without the attachments of chaos with them as well. Those things are coming to me. And what I mean by that, this is part of where I kind of drifted off and out of grace, was that big uphill of spirituality where I just felt so seen because I had all this wisdom and knowledge prior to the big chaotic kind of boom through the pandemic period, and it became massive, the spiritual new age spirituality stuff, because people were at home, people have technology, and there was a shift in the collective consciousness. It's easy to shift a collective to the same resonance, so repeating the same information over and over again. And the ones who kind of go down that spiritual path are either done with their suffering, they're really done, and they want to take an alternative route because God's been named and shamed quite a bit, in that the universe was better. And I'm going to say that I really went down that route for a while, and it took me off my path. It led me to, obviously, I was meant to have these things. I truly believe that. I was meant to have these experiences and meet the people that I have, and it just reminds me of why to stay on my path. Truly reminds me why to stay on my path, why to stay within faith within myself, because the favor and the blessings in my life are amazing, and the anointing that I feel that has been bestowed upon me with wisdom and knowledge and teachings that I have, it's amazing. I have so much favor. I could be completely somewhere else. I was speaking to someone earlier today about this, that I could be homeless, but I live in this beautiful home. I have a beautiful partner. I'm not off sleeping with strangers now. I'm not sleeping with people that don't value me and don't value my body or my mind or my values in life. I am eating delicious, yummy food. I could be starving, but I'm not. I have an opportunity to share that grace, share that wisdom, and share that favor by putting myself out there and sharing my testimony. And it, just like that, it can happen where I'm back to the familiar self, my innate familiar self, not the familiar self that's had trauma, has had abuse, has felt that she has suffered and has had illness and disease take over her body. No, the familiar self, my truth, the love that I am and always have been. I really went hard there. I'm staying in my faith, and I feel extremely unshakable, because you just know. When you know, you just know. And I don't need to manifest. And this is actually one thing I've wanted to share for a while about manifestations. We're always doing it. I think I've actually said this a few times. We're always doing it, but this is the thing I haven't said. We are always doing it regardless. It's the thoughts, the repetitive thoughts that we're creating, and what you're feeding your subconscious mind. She is creating that. Your analytical mind that is creating those programs is feeding the subconscious mind that. You want to be coherent. You want to be in synchronization with your hemispheres. If you are not in heart coherence, though, in heart, gut, heart, your womb, heart, your mind, and in faith, your manifestations will still happen. But with the attachments, all those attachments, because you didn't get specific, you didn't come with love, you didn't come through enlightenment, you didn't come through your truth, you're just asking for these things. And I noticed the more I got out of my way, I still manifested things, but did come with attachments. But as soon as I get out of my way, as soon as I get out of the way of thinking I have to do that work, the best stuff happens. The best stuff happens. And that's the juiciness of being in love, being in the presence of love within yourself. Stop dissociating. Stop thinking that you need someone or something to validate you. Come back home and ask yourself, if I love myself, would I do this? If I love myself, would I do this? Last question. How do you self-reflect and self-actualize? Well, I kind of went over that in the, when you fall from grace or jump back into the familiar self. It'd still be meditating a lot, journaling even, asking myself where I am aligning with my values. And then the self-actualization piece is really looking at something that you dislike about yourself or someone else and asking yourself where that came from. If that's even your little quality or trait, or did you pick that up from someone else? And a lot of the times the things that we dislike in other people are definitely things we dislike about ourselves, and we're just not in that self-actualization. So it would be to question where it's triggering you and how that reflects for you. As soon as you have had that moment where it self-actualizes, it's like, it can even be the fact that habit is not mine, self-actualization. And then you consciously choose to not continue to use that neural pathway. Yeah. I think that's about it. bringing yourself back into the conscious control too. That's where you take your power back. I might end it off there with the taking your power back, actually. All of this really does have a flow. I knew when I wrote those 3 questions down that it would have a flow. For me, faith, self-reflection. Each time I fall a little in consciousness, I've detoured? That sounds weird the way I say that. Detoured off path. And it's taught me something to strengthen my ability each time I get back on the path. So don't be hard on yourself if you fall, okay? As soon as you come back up, as when we become that observer of where we were, sometimes we can lack that compassion for ourselves. And I feel like I did that to myself for quite some period, and I was seeking that support for others that couldn't quite do that. But what helped me was coming back into my faith with God, within love within myself, and nurturing, doing the absolute everything I need to do to make my body feel safe again. Appreciation. I really appreciate that you've watched this and that you're tuning in, and I do hope that sharing my testimony, it's an overall my life, right? Sharing it, that it brings about some form of revelation to you and it supports your journey. Love you all.